All right, let's assess the situation. Your sunburn is at a solid 7 out of 10. You've officially stretched the limits of your stomach eating at the buffet all week, and you're walking all hunched over because you just had to try the water slides, even though your back told you not to. And now it's time to face probably the hardest challenge you'll face on your cruise, actually leaving the ship. It is Sunday, September 15th, 2024, and on this week's edition of Sunday Sofa Time, we're talking about Disembarkation Day. I'm Morgan from the Very Unofficial Travel Guides. I've been making travel videos now for over 15 years of popular and not so popular tourist destinations to give you a very honest, unofficial look at what it's like to be there, and I also wrote a little book called Getting Stitches on a Cruise Ship. It's available on Amazon now. Patreon and channel members, I posted a quiz this week. If you've checked your account, you know what I'm talking about. The answer is 31 minutes. Most of you were way over, but the person who got the closest was Charity Spalding, who guessed 27 minutes, so good job, Charity. Great minds think alike. The final day of the cruise is usually not anything anyone wants to think about, but it will happen, and there are some things you need to be prepared for. Expert cruisers, you're gonna know most of these tips, but if you are new to cruising or perhaps haven't cruised in a while, this video's for you. Usually the day before, and sometimes 2 days before the last day of your cruise, you're gonna get information in your cabin about what's gonna happen. Included in that information will be color-coded luggage tags, which will show you what time you are scheduled to leave the ship. Here's a little secret. You don't necessarily have to leave at that time, but for a streamlined disembarkation, you probably should. One of the trickiest parts of the process is not how you get off of the ship, but how your bags get off of the ship. Unless you want to be schlepping your suitcase and carry-ons through a super crowded ship on the final morning, waiting for an elevator up to a half an hour, the best thing to do is let the crew take the bags for you. What's tricky about this is you kind of have to organize what you want to wear the last night of the cruise, what you're gonna sleep in, and what you're gonna wear for your journey home the day before. People who find it hard to make decisions might struggle with this. I don't know what I want to wear tomorrow. Ask me tomorrow. There are people who you will see wearing their pajamas leaving the ship because they didn't do it right. Has it ever happened to you, or have you seen this? Let me know in the comments. So make sure you have those clothes in order, and also make sure you have your ID and your cruise card not in your bag that you're going to be leaving outside the cabin on the final night. Usually the deadline is around 10:30 to pack those bags, attach the colored labels to them, and leave them outside your cabin. They will then magically disappear and show up in rows assigned to the colors in the terminal the next morning. It's like magic. But is it like crystal, energy, water? Have you been here that long? It's so much easier to do it this way. I do not recommend taking your bags off on your own unless you just have a really light, easily managed carry-on. The final day is usually crowded, it's usually kind of chaotic, and you're gonna have to be out of your cabin by probably 9 o'clock. So even if you're still planning to go to breakfast after that before you leave the ship, you're gonna have all those bags with you to take up to the top deck or wherever you're going for breakfast, take them back down to the gangway. It's just not cute. So read the info, leave your bags outside the cabin, and save yourself that stress. Now there's some things you have to know about for the final night before you leave the cruise, and these are things that could save you a lot of money, so pay attention. First of all, I think it's important to check your onboard account and make sure that everything is correct. A lot of people wait until the last minute and then the night before the cruise ends. There's a huge line at guest relations, so to avoid that, just check it a little bit earlier. Most cruise lines now have an app and you can see it in the app, or if there's an interactive television, you can find it in there, or you can go and just ask to have it printed out, and they usually leave a copy of it under your door around like midnight, but don't wait that long. If there is a mistake, if you've accidentally been charged for something twice, or maybe you canceled something that didn't get refunded, don't wait until like 10:30 on the final night to go get that taken care of. Do it earlier. Another thing that could end up saving you a lot of money is if you've been playing in the casino and you still have some casino tickets, make sure you get those cashed out before the casino closes on the final night. I'm not saying that I've ever made that mistake. But you can't go to guest relations with a casino ticket on the final morning and get that cash. It's not gonna happen. So that's just one thing that's really important to think about before the casino closes on the final night. Also, a lot of times when you're cruising, you will get an onboard credit. A lot of people call this an OBC. You down with OBC? Yeah, you know me. Sometimes it's included in a cruise package that you book, or if something gets canceled like an excursion, they will roll that over into onboard credit in your account. And a lot of times this is non-refundable, which means if you don't spend it on the cruise, it just disappears. It's free money, but you need to use it for something on the cruise, so
use it for something on the cruise.
That is something you're definitely gonna wanna check. So use that onboard credit and don't just throw away free money. Speaking of shopping and spending money, if you've been walking around the ship, looking in the shops, testing the colognes and perfumes. We do a lot of testing colognes and perfumes when we're on ships. And maybe there's a t-shirt or a mug or something that you've seen and you've thought, ooh, I have to go back and get that before the cruise finishes. Make sure you do that on or before the final night because the shops will not be open on the final morning. You might end up leaving the ship without that 400th coffee mug that you know you don't really need at home. Also, if you've posed for any pictures from the onboard photographers, make sure you get that sorted out on the final night as well because once the cruise is over, the pictures are gone. By the way, if you are in the frequent cruisers club, like on Royal Caribbean, it's called Crown and Anchor. A lot of times, if you are at a, let's say, middle to higher level, you get a picture or pictures for free. So make sure you take advantage of that. It can be fun to stand there and either do a nice or silly picture. And whether you're getting it comped or want to pay for it, that's something that you also have to do before the final night is over. Okay, here's a final tip, and some people might think this is funny, but I think it's really important to not get wasted on the final night.
How nice is the sun today? We don't need permission to play.
I know I sound all grown up and responsible here, but the last morning of a cruise is usually kind of chaotic. It's already a bummer and you just don't want to have a hangover. You already kind of feel like crap because the cruise is over, so why ruin it by being hungover? I'm not saying we don't enjoy an alcoholic beverage on the final night. Gotta use up those credits, but keep yourself under control and maybe go to bed a little bit early just so you are fit and ready to go on the final morning. All right, let's talk about the final morning. And before I get into that, it would really help me out if you could subscribe and press the thumbs up. Check out my membership page and Patreon, and maybe consider getting a copy of Getting Stitches on a Cruise Ship. An extra special thanks to everybody who has helped me by signing up to my membership page within the last month. I have reached the threshold to get that YouTube bonus, and I'm just really happy about that. Thank you. On the final morning, definitely do not plan on sleeping in. It's gonna get loud early. The cabin attendants want you out of that cabin because the quicker they get it flipped around and ready for the next guests, the quicker they might have a little bit of time off before the next cruise starts. Do not expect anything fun on the final morning. The pools are gonna be closed, the water slides are closed, the spa, go-karts, it's all closed. The only things open will be some of the dining venues, and if you plan to go to the buffet, bring a lot of patience with you. It is gonna be crowded. As an alternative, you can go to the main dining room. This is a little bit more chill and relaxed. I did this with my sister on the Independence of the Seas for the first time, and it was really pretty nice. It's not a buffet, but you can order from a menu and order as much as you want, so definitely a great way to consider spending the last morning on the ship. Some cruise lines also offer room service on the final morning, and I think this is an interesting alternative that I've never tried. Are you a room service on the last morning kind of person? Let me know in the comments. I think I might try that on my next cruise. And once the cruise is over, many people are flying home on that day. Please take this advice. Don't book a flight before noon. You just really want to leave yourself a little bit of a grace period to get to the airport and not be stressed about missing your flight. If you think that you might not leave the ship until 8 or 9 o'clock and then give yourself an hour to get to the airport, and you want to be at the airport 2 hours before your flight leaves usually, that's kind of cutting it close. I would say try to find a flight home that leaves at 1 o'clock or later. And if your flight leaves much later, don't plan on staying on the ship later than like 10 o'clock or 10:30. That's where they're gonna start calling your name and hunting you down. When it is finally time to leave the ship, head to the gangway. They're gonna be making announcements about what deck it's on, and when you get to that deck, there will be crew members pointing you in the direction. And make sure you have your cruise card out and ready. If you packed that in your checked bags, that's gonna bring you a lot of problems. Don't make that mistake. Once you get down into the terminal, the bags will be waiting there in their color-coded rows. One mistake I have made, this has only happened to me once, and I can't remember why, but I left the ship earlier than my allotted time, and that led to me being in the terminal and my suitcase wasn't there yet. So even though I left early, it didn't get me out of the harbor earlier because I still had to wait for my bags. So if your bags are already there, you grab the bags, get back in line, and you'll have to go through some kind of identification check. Many ports are now using this automated thing where they just look at your face and then you can go through. If they don't have that, they will have to check your passport before you leave. And if you're cruising with just a birth certificate, that's gonna take a while. So just get a passport. All right, transportation on the final day of the cruise. This is a tricky thing. The best thing is if you know somebody there who can actually pick you up. And if you don't, I think the easiest, least complicated way is to book the cruise ship transfer to the airport, because there's just no guessing. You know what time you're gonna leave, you know approximately what time you're gonna get to the airport, the buses are comfortable, and you know how much it's gonna cost in advance. The downside is, it's usually the most expensive way. The alternatives are take an Uber or a taxi, but this can be stressful, you know? 6,000 people waiting for an Uber, it gets tricky. Plan a lot of extra time. Make sure you go potty before you leave the terminal. You might be standing outside for half an hour or even more before your Uber shows up. I've been in situations where the driver has circled around and then canceled because he said he couldn't find us, or said he was waiting for us, but he wasn't where he said he was waiting. We've been trying to get an Uber back to the airport for about a half an hour now. They keep the guy keeps missing the turn, or turning around and going around again. We haven't seen him go past. It's pretty chaotic here. I guess much less stressful to just organize some kind of transfer in advance and not have to deal with this kind of stress, or maybe just jump in a taxi. I mean, taxi might end up costing a little bit more money, but they're waiting here, you know, you can just hop into one. Be ready, be patient, stay hydrated. Okay, when you get to the airport, you might be hungry, so make sure you grab something to eat before you get crabby, but this is also something you're gonna have to get used to. When you find something that you wanna eat, you're gonna have to pay for it. The cruise is over. You will have to give them your credit card, not your cruise card. And when you get home, someone's gonna have to cook some food. There is no buffet in your living room. I'm sorry, I know. It's hard. I have ridden this emotional roller coaster so many times. The only thing that makes it better is plan another cruise. And coming up on the very unofficial travel guides, I will be showing you what I think was a camera on my balcony. The side-by-side video of Coco Cay 13 years ago versus today is coming. And even more, so make sure you're subscribed and check back soon. I'm Morgan from the very unofficial travel guides. Bye-bye.